Today is a big day in the NBA, not because we have any humongous stories outside of some controversy with a couple, mainly one, but like a couple of big name podcasters. There's that, but we do have some other smaller stories. And then the Kuminga thing that took off this morning, we have a little bit more information. We're going to talk about that information, as you guys can see on the screen. We're also going to talk about some other stuff like John Morant, what he's been up to, a scary fall that he had, I believe, yesterday. We have some Chris Paul stuff, Kristaps, so just a bunch of little things we're going to cover. So I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe here to the channel where Trevor and I keep you guys informed with all the information as it comes out. My name is Donnie Freeman, aka D Free. You guys can follow me on Twitter as well at DFreeDBZHD. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So shout out to Oh No He Didn't. Mark Spears says Kuminga wants to go to Sacramento. Oh no, he didn't. Trev, are you watching? I made a funny. The Kings are offering a starting spot. He's talked on a Zoom call with Scott Perry, BJ Armstrong, and also with Doug Christie. He's in. He also said the Suns have offered Royce O'Neal, Richards, and 4 second-round picks. So I'm not really going to dive deep into this. I feel like we've got like 10 videos on Kuminga, especially over the last like few days, because there's been more like compounding information and conflicting information. And now yesterday, and Trev had a video actually earlier today where he covered a lot of it. Now, some of the stuff that's kind of happened just today is that there's reports over the last couple of days, I guess, there's reports that they're offering him like a 2-year deal. There's 40 million to 45 million. The Warriors are trying to freeze out Kuminga trade offers, so he's forced to re-sign with them. The Warriors want to get Kuminga on a 20-ish salary deal so they can make him part of a trade. And if they are going to trade him, they want to get back assets for him that can be used for a trade. So they're like thinking about that stuff. I think ultimately he wants out. The Warriors don't really want to keep him specifically as a player. They've made it very clear. That he doesn't fit what they do there. And he wants a bigger role. He wants to go somewhere else. There was also a report earlier today that he feels like basically they've strung him along for 4 years. And I can understand that argument really, because they were in this like, oh, we're going to start rebuilding period a couple years ago. He was very heavily marketed as being one of their next upcoming guys. And then they pulled the rug from under them because they went into a championship run, pulled the rug from under all that, and then shifted right to like all in right now, right? Like it all happened really quickly, right? You know, it was him. It was some of the other guys have been pretty good. I mean, Poole was pretty good for them while he was there, of course, prior to the Draymond incident. Moody has been consistent with them, and then also Wiseman. So like they were in this period where they were trying to get young talent in and all that stuff. But ultimately, they're now in this like super heavy. Right now, 2-year timeline, one of the oldest teams in the NBA, but screw it, we don't care. We're going to try to do what we can around Steph, which I can understand as well. But ultimately, Kuminga wants the role that he thinks he deserves. And it's tricky because if you're a team that's trying to acquire him, like I said in a video recently with Trevor, you're acquiring him on good faith. You don't know exactly what he can be. I mean, he had spurts, where he looks really good. Right. I don't think he's a bad player at all. I just think he doesn't fit. And so if you're Sacramento or something, you're going to offer him a deal that he is going to be satisfied with. And it's on the premise that he's going to turn into what you think he could potentially be. Right. And I think, honestly, for Kuminga, the best thing is probably just to if you don't have the long-term contract on the table, I actually don't mind if I'm him taking a 2-year deal or something like that, as long as it's not a team option deal. Like you want that player option, but a 2-year deal, player option, or just flat, I guess. And then at that point, trying to figure out how much more money you can get after you've got another year or two under your belt, showing what you can do in an increased role, right? But ultimately, though, it's very clear Golden State doesn't want him. They don't really value him, the player on their team, anymore. Not because he's not good. They just want to make sure that they're getting some return on investment. They want to get an asset back for him, or to have a contract that makes him an asset, right? So that's kind of where they're at. All right. So, and by the way, Royce O'Neal, Nick Richards, I believe Nick is on a 1-year 5, but Royce is on a long-term deal. And I don't know that the Warriors would want that. 4 seconds. That's okay. But yeah, so that's kind of the offer out there. So next, the Orlando Magic and Memphis Grizzlies will play in Berlin on January 15th and London on January 18th this upcoming season. The NBA will also play regular season games in Manchester and Paris in 2027 and Berlin and Paris in 2028. Global game. So this is not unheard of. The game, we've had situations like this many times in the past where teams are playing overseas, foreign places. Like that's not uncommon, right? But I think on the heels of the fact that the NBA is trying to establish a European league, this may be a step towards that overall. But again, it's nothing crazy. We see this all the time. But now that Ja is a talking point here, because he will be one of the players, obviously, with Memphis, I wanted to kind of pivot towards Ja. So Ja had this slip and fall, I believe yesterday, where he is going for a dunk, just slips, and that's his dad, by the way. I actually, low key, I actually am like, obviously, Ja is like the multi-million-dollar player, so like, obviously, I'm concerned about Ja, but like, T takes a nasty hit here. He's an old man, dude. Like that could knock him out. Like I don't know what happens with him, but in all seriousness, though, that's a scary fall for Ja, where he just slips. His feet just slip under him. It's like the floor. Look, I mean, look at that. Actually, he doesn't even. His foot doesn't even plant correctly. This foot doesn't plant. It just slides. That's crazy. That's crazy. So Ja is currently on a tour right now, and he's in China and all that stuff. But yeah, this man, this could have ended multiple ways. I'm happy that he's okay, of course, obviously not trying to insinuate otherwise. I just think that while this is a part of what he's trying to do with the tour, I just would probably not try to do trick dunks like this, for the record. Like the dad being there trying to jump over the what's the point of this? That's just the way I see this. He's trying to put on a show. I get it. But I wouldn't be trying to do any crazy dunks, while I've got to worry about the NBA season coming up in a couple months here. Like I wouldn't worry about this specifically trying to do a crazy trick dunk. You could do you could do a windmill. Shoot, you could maybe do that. But again, the big thing is that his feet just slide, because if his feet don't slide, we're not talking about this. But accidents happen, right? And then on Ja, I think it's pretty interesting, just for the record, because back in December around New Year's, he actually said, I'm actually not trying to dunk at all. Y'all think I'm lying. I'm dead serious. Sometimes I get knocked out of the air and a foul don't get called, and now I'm out longer than what I'm supposed to be. Sometimes the foul might get called. I still hit the floor, but after the game, you might feel that little fall. So I just pick and choose, man. Hey, 2 points is 2 points. I get it done. That's all that matters. So like this specifically, aside from the slip and fall and the way I feel about it, this is the right mindset. And this is the thing, the risk with like the Ja type hyper athletic guards. We haven't seen many of them make it deep into their career without sustaining a ton of injuries and just being a shell of themselves when they get deep into their career. And so if you're Ja, you've seen several players in the past, John Wall or Derrick Rose, some of these other guys that had really bad injuries, and they weren't able to sustain that, right? And if you're Ja, I think that, and there's more players in that, of course. I think you need to be aware of that, and I think you need to be putting yourself in a position to not. You don't want to be leaving your feet, and going all up there. And like he says, he gets knocked in the air and he takes some hard falls, man. There were several times over the last few years where Ja had like these crazy would have been highlight dunks where he is up in the air and he's throwing this down, but he gets knocked down, obviously misses the dunk. But like, why would you even try that? What are you trying to do? Why do you got to keep? There was a stretch, I kid you not. There was a stretch where he had like 2 or 3 of those in like a couple weeks. And I'm just like, what is going on here? Right. So I think this is the right mentality. And so this is, 6-7 months ago. But yeah, I would prefer if he just stuck with this, especially in the offseason. Bubble wrap these guys. keep them on ice until we get back into the season. We don't want to enter the season with anything going on with him or anybody else. Chris Paul, I'm playing with Harden again. We have unfinished business. Yeah, that is interesting. Let me know in the comments. I know that we've got a lot of Laker fans and they're going to hate this. This team in general, like just like they hate the Clippers in general, right? Which I understand. Don't get me wrong. What do you guys think about the Clippers? And I asked this knowing most of the comments are going to be they're terrible. I already know. But for the more neutral fans, what do you think of the Clippers this season? I think that they have to have a lot of things go their way. I think they're very old. And if that age the injury concerns with some of their guys doesn't come back to bite them, I think they could be a pretty interesting team. They do have some further concerns like playoff Harden potentially. Like Harden's weird because he'll have a big game and then he'll have a nothing burger game. Like what happens with that? They got the healthy Kawhi last season and he didn't look he didn't look 100% like Kawhi anymore. And maybe that's just that he's getting older and he's had those injuries and stuff. And then, you're going to be a year older with Chris Paul, with the other guys on this team, like Batum, Lopez, like you're very old. So I do wonder about that piece of it. But I think they're obviously in the mix. I think that's fair to say, right? I think that's absolutely fair to say. In terms of unfinished business, yeah, they got really close. What was that, 2018? 18, right? They got super close, and they had one of the worst possible games you could have at that moment, missing, 20-something straight threes. Just terrible. And if I remember correctly, this didn't end on great terms either between these two, so it's cool to see them having patched things up to get back to this point as well. But ultimately, though, let me know what you guys think on the Clippers. And lastly, Kristaps thought he was being traded to San Antonio before he was informed he was headed to Atlanta. That would have been interesting. Now, I've talked a lot about injuries and stuff like that throughout this video. Remains to be seen with Wemby. I'm hopeful that he doesn't have any, for one, like that's a blood clot, I believe. That's not a quote unquote injury, I guess. But with guys of Wemby's build, the super tall, slender guys, I'm always pretty concerned about that. And Kristaps is not all that different. So I would be and Kristaps actually does have a lengthy injury history. I would be pretty concerned about this team. I talked about bubble wrap. If I was running the Spurs, I may have these guys in bubble wrap until like New Year's. If I'm being honest with you, I may have these dudes on bubble wrap until New Year's. But in all seriousness, this would have been terrifying. This would have been terrifying to play against. Like you got these two shot blocking, 3-point shooting demons. Wemby's got more to his game, more of like the handle and all that stuff. But Kristaps is no slouch. Kristaps was the unicorn once upon a time, right? Like he is somebody I think that would have been insane next to Wemby. And that I just think that's really interesting. Like if I'm San Antonio, like I said, I would have been interested in this, but I would have concerns about obviously the health side of things, and mostly not with Wemby, most of that with Kristaps, because we do have the history of injury there. But yeah, food for thought there. Let me know what you guys think about that pairing. But ultimately, though, just a bunch of quick hitters, smaller stories. Let me know what you guys think. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you later. And if you haven't seen the video earlier today from Trevor where he covered the Kuminga stuff in detail, make sure you click on the video on the screen right now.